For decades, the Middle East has been shaped by one of the most dangerous rivalries in the world: Iran and Israel, two powerful nations, two powerful militaries, and today, bitter enemies. Missiles, cyber attacks, assassinations, and proxy wars have turned their rivalry into a shadow conflict that spans the entire region. But the most surprising part of this story is that Iran and Israel were not always enemies. In fact, they were once allies. So how did two nations that once cooperated become locked in one of the most dangerous conflicts on Earth? To understand this war, we have to go back to the beginning. In 1948, the State of Israel was created. Many countries in the Middle East rejected its existence and quickly went to war. But Iran was different. At the time, Iran was ruled by a monarch known as the Shah. The Shah wanted Iran to become a modern and powerful nation, and he saw Israel as a useful partner. And both Iran and Israel felt threatened by them. So despite religious and political differences, the two nations quietly began cooperating. Trade grew between them. Israeli technology helped Iran develop its agriculture and industry. Intelligence agencies from both countries even shared information. For years, the alliance remained mostly secret, but it was real and it worked. For decades, Iran and Israel maintained a cautious but important partnership. In the late 1970s, Iran began to experience massive unrest. Millions of people protested against the Shah's government. Many believed the Shah was too close to Western powers, like the United States. Others opposed his policies and growing inequality in the country. The protests grew larger, the anger grew stronger, and eventually, the Shah was forced to flee Iran. In 1979, the Iranian Revolution completely transformed the country. A new government took power. It was led by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, and this new leadership had a very different vision for Iran. Instead of cooperating with Western allies, the new government wanted to oppose them, and Israel quickly became one of Iran's biggest enemies. Iran's leaders declared Israel an illegitimate state. They openly supported movements that opposed Israel, and the alliance between the two countries collapsed overnight. From that moment forward, Iran and Israel were no longer partners, they were rivals. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, the conflict between Iran and Israel grew, but it did not look like a traditional war. There were no massive battles between their armies. Instead, the conflict moved into the shadows. Iran began supporting armed groups across the Middle East. One of the most powerful of these groups was Hezbollah in Lebanon. These organizations opposed Israel and often launched attacks against Israeli forces. At the same time, Israel began closely monitoring Iran's growing military ambitions, especially one program that worried Israeli leaders more than anything else: Iran's nuclear program. Israel feared that if Iran developed nuclear weapons, it could threaten the entire region. So, the rivalry intensified, espionage increased, secret operations expanded, and the shadow war continued. Assassinations and cyber warfare. In the 2000s, the conflict entered a new phase. Both countries began using covert tactics to weaken each other. Several Iranian nuclear scientists were assassinated under mysterious circumstances. Many analysts believed Israel's intelligence agency, Mossad, was responsible. At the same time, cyber warfare emerged as a powerful new weapon. One of the most famous examples was the Stuxnet virus. This cyber attack targeted Iranian nuclear facilities. The virus secretly damaged centrifuges used to enrich uranium, and it significantly slowed Iran's nuclear program. Iran responded by strengthening its alliances with militant groups in the region. Missiles and drones began appearing in conflicts across the Middle East, and the rivalry between Iran and Israel continued to escalate. The conflict spreads. Across the region today, Iran and Israel rarely fight each other directly. Instead, the conflict spreads through multiple fronts across the Middle East. In Syria, Iranian forces and militias have operated near Israeli borders. Israel has launched airstrikes targeting these positions. In Lebanon, Hezbollah maintains thousands of rockets capable of striking Israeli cities. In Gaza, armed groups supported by Iran frequently clash with Israeli forces. Even at sea, tensions have risen. Both countries have accused each other of attacking ships and oil tankers. What began as a political rivalry has evolved into a regional conflict. The biggest fear today is that the shadow war could turn into a direct war. Both Iran and Israel possess advanced military capabilities, missile systems, cyber warfare units, powerful intelligence agencies, and highly trained armed forces. A direct confrontation between these two nations could have devastating consequences for the entire region. Many global powers are closely watching the situation, because if a larger war breaks out, it could pull other countries into the conflict, and that could change the balance of power in the Middle East. Conclusion: the conflict between Iran and Israel did not appear overnight. It grew slowly over decades, from secret cooperation to political rivalry to a dangerous shadow war. Today, the tension between these two nations remains one of the most serious geopolitical conflicts in the world, and the future of this rivalry may shape the Middle East for years to come. The question now is not just why Iran and Israel are enemies, but whether this conflict will remain in the shadows or explode into something far more dangerous.